Huh. Hi, everyone. I think this is just me. Oh, Sam, request to be in the live. I see you, Sam.
Messaging
So,
back, it was asking me which room to go to.
okay, he should be in it. I think he'll hopefully request. I saw him jump in. So tell him to, Sam, hit that plus sign on the bottom and request to jump in.
There we go. I got it. Now that he's in here, you can invite him.
Oh,
There
thank
he
God.
is.
Like having a can with
We
string
did
attached.
it! We,
I
can you hear us? Yay. All right,
Woohoo!
awesome. It worked. We're here. Yeah, Ben Raymond just texted me and he was like, just invite Taco Man.
had enough talk tonight.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we saw the video.
So funny. Yeah.
That was a bunch of bull.
Yeah, seriously. So,
Everything's
how's
going
the week
good. I'm
been?
trying to get
The
my
week
phone
of.
a little bit better position. There we go. Yeah, I was sitting down trying to decipher 57 emails, and then I saw Dave's call, and I'm like, oh yeah, I got to do that. So it's just nonstop. Emails, text messages, you know, putting out fire.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. We know how it is, especially when you get all the emails from people and you're like, you just want to respond.
I
Did
set
you read
auto
the rider
reply in
guide?
my email, and I tested it, so I know it's hopefully working. Oh,
Oh, I love
I was
that.
like,
We got to do
today
that.
I'm out getting dirty. Leave me alone.
Perfect. All right, Dave, you want to start it off with our questions?
Yeah, sure. Basically, I guess we've already talked about this
Yeah.
stuff a bunch because you've been sharing it, but I don't think people really know. We wanted to kind of get into the history a little bit, just to kind of have a brief overview because people they see it every year like 8.0, 9.0, 10.0. So we wanted just to kind of give a little brief, like when did you first think of this cobbler thing, and then when did
So
it start?
2014, I guess, would have been our first year, and the story I tell everybody, we went to beat this like second, maybe kind of organized BWR. I think Michael had done it before that. So me and the boys went down and we did BWR, and we had so much fun. And the whole ride home, we kept talking about like, man, we've got so much cool stuff, and I wish it had a little bit. Not that there's anything wrong with the route they had, but if it had more dirt, and we were doing cyclocross races. So it just sort of evolved. We came home and we were out riding in the foothills, like maybe a couple months later. It was October, I guess. Well, yeah, several months later, and we just said, let's do it. Let's just throw something together for February, and that's kind of it just rolled the ball. And as you guys were part of it, it just kind of came together, and we had 50 people, and now like 1,000, and it's mind-boggling, and what an evolution.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I still remember when I'm pretty sure we were at Hart Park doing one of your cyclocross races, and you were just like, guys, I have this crazy idea. We can do this really long cyclocross race. And we were
That
like, okay,
yeah,
sure, we're
that was
in.
kind of. I mean, you're absolutely right. I guarantee you, we had that conversation, and that really was really what was swimming around in my head was like, before maybe adventure rides were kind of what they are. I just kept thinking of it more of as an adventure. I'd never really heard, at that time, gravel rides or that sort of thing. So, yeah, it started that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. We weren't even using that word. I'm pretty sure you called it a really long cyclocross race. Like that was your vision. It's just to
That's
make
what
it this
people were calling them when they were
stupid
talking about
thing.
like Burke out in Utah and others. It was like choose your best weapon. You show up with a cyclocross bike or a mountain bike, and everybody was calling them like ultra cross races and other things. And we're like, what the hell is that? And so yeah, it was definitely the technology of the bikes now and bigger tires. There's a lot more love for what people are going to
Today we were
experience this
driving
weekend.
around doing errands, and I have a guy from Canada named Nat who comes every year, and he helps us put together, work on the course and stuff. So he just got here yesterday, and we were driving around the foothills, and he's looking around. He's like, I can't believe it's 10 years. He goes, some of the stuff we used to do on 32 millimeter tires. And he goes, there was one tubeless tire option.
Yeah.
I feel like old men, like we lived through a decade of equipment for gravel riding.
I know. It always feels like back in my day when we started.
I am old. I say it all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I love that. I think that was, I mean, probably one of my favorite things was that conversation happening at Hart Park, because like you had that stupid run up in the cross race and you had all these crazy things already in your cross race setup that I was like I can only imagine what he's going to throw together for 80 plus miles instead. But yeah, one thing that hasn't really changed is your idea to always change the route. So I think you've never done the same route twice, as far as I know. And is that something you see continuing?
It gets harder because there's only so much real estate. And so, you have certain ins and outs of getting to and from some things can't change because, they've got to, what goes out's got to come back. And then there's things that people like, Mr. Toads and features that we try to incorporate every year because people just love it. But yeah, even if it's just a trail 100 yards away from one I used before, I'm always trying to kind of mix it up and then flip-flopping directions from counterclockwise to clockwise. This year, I think, I'll let the cat out of the bag on I was getting ready. I'm going to send it tonight, but originally this was going to be the year we were going to cross the Kern River. And so we had but CFS was perfect, and then Mother Nature let loose, and the CFS went from 140 to like 650. So that didn't work out, and everybody that I told was like, "Oh my God, you sure there's no way?" And I'm like, "Yeah, trust me, I can't build a bridge across."
That's like the year that going into the what's it called out there out on the ranch, like you had us cross that river underneath the bridge, and like the rope was across there, and we were holding our bikes above our head, and I'm seeing bodies like float down.
Pretty gnarly creek that year. Well, so anyway, we didn't get to do the river, so Taco Man, to the rescue. We were sitting at his house here, and I told him, I'm like, look, I'm going to have to rework this whole thing. I don't know what to do. And he's just like staring off into space. And he looks at me and he goes, oh, I got it. And what we're going to do is we're going to do this thing around here. And I was like, oh, this is perfect. Like, how come I didn't think of it? So I have to give him his accolades. But yeah, it's kind of I call this year's route like a rabbit with a big set of ears. So it's sort of a backwards version of last year, counterclockwise. But what's interesting for the cobblers that's never happened before, for the pebblers, it's about the same, the run up, and then they kind of head in or hike a bike. But for the cobblers, it comes early. It comes like, I mean, not even, it's just maybe right at halfway or maybe a little bit over. So I think it's kind of interesting that they've got so many, like another 3,500 or 4,000 feet to do after, so it's going to be kind of interesting to see how it pans out from a fatigue standpoint.
So kind of reverse, meaning private land is later.
So last year we did two sections,
right away.
And newest section was first last year, and it will be last this year. Yeah. There you go. I'll let you study it when you get it later.
I like that because it'll be more spread out. I think that was part of the issue last year. It was like we were all still so condensed. I think for that early.
It's going to be, with as many people as we have, even with the waves, there's going to be some, some condensing through that first 16 or 17 miles. But there's plenty to spread it out after that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that kind of, when we look at like from then to now, where you're talking about 50 people and now being up to 1,000 riders, it's a totally different event, but it's still all of the shenanigans and stuff that's happened over the years. So What's your favorite
Well,
thing? God,
it's hard to. Everybody asks what's my favorite. It's so hard to pick. The automatic is riding through Taco Man's house because that was unique. But honestly, for me personally, my favorite was rolling the beach balls down the hill because it was just, I spent money on all these beach balls, and there's just Filipino bike club here in town called the Brown Monkeys, and they're all over it. Like, oh yeah, we're gonna set up the aid station, and I get out there, and they did exactly what I envisioned. They put up the snow fencing, and they'd had all these balls, and they were rolling them down, and one guy was going down and bringing them back. It was hilarious. I just thought visually that was one of the funnest things. I almost did it again for this year because I loved it so much, but we got plenty of other stuff planned.
Okay. Okay, so we kind of touched on it a little bit. The hike-a-bike, I think, is like the notorious thing that people think about or pictures that they see of rock cobbler. So is there only one planned for this year, or have you snuck any additional
I'll let
ones
another cat out of the bag. The hike-a-bike that I wanted to use for this year ended up getting nixed because of all the rain. And it was the longest, hardest one I could find in the foothills. I've been looking at it for years. So I did do it in a early rides before the rain shut down, and then I went back, and it was dangerous because there was so much erosion that I was worried about rocks rolling down the hill on top of other people. So we're going to go back to year number one hike-a-bike, which is hard, but same problem. It had a bunch of erosion. So we picked one that's good. I wouldn't say that it's over the top hard. Like, it doesn't need to be any more ridiculous. To answer your question, Amanda, there's always places where there's really steep stuff and people have to get off. So there are people with other hike-a-bikes.
Yeah.
But as far as like the planned, no, just the one.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. I mean, I can even think of what we started on last year and those drop-ins from the side of the road that were kind of technical. It's like if you're riding back up that little valley.
Yeah, there's a few, like I say, a few little things like that. Flow. I was watching a couple of questions come through on the, it rained. We got half an rain yesterday or last night. But I was out in the truck today in most of the foothills, and it was fine. So come Saturday, I think it's just going to be amazing.
Okay. That's a lot and kind of scary. I think it'll probably be like set up for perfect conditions for Saturday. So are there any
we will cross just the main, it's called Cottonwood Creek, which is the one Dave was talking about with the rope. So we will do that. That's how we get in and out of that property. But it was super. I mean, we went through it last weekend, and it was 5-6 inches deep. It was
I like just scaring people anyway.
Yeah.
Saying like, gotta use the rope.
No, I was kind of worried that creek might turn back into that, but there just wasn't as much residual into that area. So, for all the rain we got, it didn't really affect that creek.
Yeah, nice.
Cool.
Okay, I have a question about the barrel racing.
Literal Amanda here.
Yeah, okay. So when I first read this, I was like, are we like volunteering to get on horses? And then I realized we're like literally doing this on bikes. So for anybody else that read that and was confused, that's my clarification. And then also, is there a prize purse for the women? Or are we doing just everybody is together?
Bikes, not on horses.
Okay.
I thought about it, but then I thought the county might not like that if we tear up the grass. So I have a girl who works for me. She's a barrel racer. That's how the whole thing. So it just popped into my head.
Nice.
I was like, what can we do to keep people around besides the pasta dinner, and let BMC get some, more exposure and that sort of thing. And then I looked at her and I said, we're going to do a barrel race. And she's, what are you going to do?
Yes.
So I told her all about it. So she's coming out with a bunch of her barrel racing girls, and we got a little announcer. So it's just really for fun. I mean, we're definitely giving a little bit of cash away. There's no entry fee, no timing chips. Joey's going to sit there with a freaking stopwatch, and we're just going to have a good time. It's so short. Like, like there's 3 barrels. You have 2 far away and 1 close, and so we have the pattern laid out that we want people to do. And so I kind of figured, I don't think, I mean, there could be a 12-year-old that can win this thing, as opposed to much less, male or female. So I just wanted to keep it easy. I think.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you heard, but we did a beer mouth the day before Ames TUFF, so we know it. Yeah, the shenanigans before,
sure.
the night before is always a good idea.
It's a brilliant idea. Yeah. At 8,000 feet, run a beer mile, and then try to ride 108 the next day. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I want
to do the
barrel race.
Both
though.
of you.
I'm in.
Oh man.
I'm gonna mount some SPD cleats to an old pair of boots I have. See if that works.
Oh man.
All right, Dave. Rider guide questions.
Yeah. So I guess our big thing is we gotta support this, because after putting on an event, finally you realize how many people don't actually open that email. So we saw the email go Sunday morning. We had to ask how many people actually opened.
Yeah, I'm
the
looking
email.
at it right now. Out of 1,026 sent, 944 opened. Now,
that's good.
Open versus read, I can't get that far because technology tell me what.
That's still pretty good. I'm impressed. I'm impressed.
I like that number, because we were at like 63%, and I was like, "This man, do people are."
So it gives me a rundown through like even last year and stuff, and we don't have a click rate under 88%, which is really good.
Nice.
Sweet. Yeah.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah, no, that's good. And if anybody here is wondering, that email did come from, it's like through Bike Reg, so you can also look up Bike Reg in case you didn't get it.
We were going to send it to the whole database. I actually had to catch Steve on that. I was like, hey, no, just to the registered riders. So if anybody has a question, I always tell them, feel free to reach out. I'm going to get busy here the next couple of days. Everything should be in there. We went through it pretty thoroughly. So.
Yeah. So then my next question is, what is, like, if there's one thing you want people to make sure they go read in the rider guide, what is it? And then Dave and I have
always safety.
Like,
I'll touch on it when I send the route out, but the rain creates some ruts, and even for me living here and getting on a lot of this stuff, repeatedly, there's things that have changed, from 5 months ago to now. So I just really want to stress to people to, ride within their limits and make sure that we have a safe day. Inevitably we have some thrills and spills. It happens. But I think we can avoid a lot of it if people just sort of pay attention and realize, hey, this is not stuff that I do all the time. And the safety first part, crossing the roads and doing all the things. We've got a lot of people in place to help with that. But when they're way out on Rio Bravo Ranch or way out on this other property, we want them to be careful back in there.
Yeah. Yes, perfect.
Yeah, we used to do a gravel camp with the Cobbler some years back, and that's the one thing that I think most people that do these gravel events and then they come to the Cobbler, similar to our friend Bobby who came out from Kansas and broke his shoulder, is there's a lot of hidden rollovers and those, kind of convex slopes. There's rain ruts and everything else on the other side, so it's just kind of like tap the brakes a few extra times before you drop into things and make sure you've chose the right line.
Yeah,
and
for
stay
sure
within those limits of speed.
Yeah,
you guys have done it many times, but it's going to be a big long descent down on Rio Bravo Ranch that basically comes from Breckenridge over to 178, and it's fast. I mean, it's scary fast, and I downhill fast, but that thing has got a lot of surprises in it, and that would be a really good section where I tell people, it's like, man, I don't care if you're a pro downhiller, you do not want to send it on this thing. Just enjoy it and get to the bottom, because it'll.
Yeah. Because there's also only so far your eye line can go, and a lot of times at those speeds, doesn't matter how quickly that rut comes up, you just don't have enough time to react.
Yeah,
so it's better to
with all the rain have done
a
lot of damage to a lot of the ground, and so what happens is you'll be going from freeway smooth to bone jarring, pitted, and then that really kind of messes with you. So just safety.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool.
And my main point I wanted to bring up is that the course markings trump all GPS navigation. For Mammoth, we did very little course marking. It was really only safety marks, and everybody went off of navigation. So for everybody that's not used to that or used to something different, for Sam's race, it's always course marking. So if your GPS is beeping at you to turn right, but you see the white chalk mark pointed straight, like that's the way you have to go. And it's probably,
I mean, we try to get it as absolutely close as possible, but gone are the days where I can go mark the whole course. So I have like 8 different people marking sections, and they all know it, and we've all been through it, and they've all ridden it. But sometimes, something happens on Friday, or we had to make a small modification, or as you guys know from being here, there'll be a trail, and then like 20 feet away, there'll be another trail, and then 20 feet away, there'll be another trail. And so I look at the GPS stuff. It's like, it's a really good guide so you don't get lost, but just pay attention to the pink arrows and the white chalk, and they'll be fine.
Yeah, especially when you get back into Hart Park, there's times where you're paralleling other parts of the course, and your navigation will tell you you're off course because it's picking up the other way. So
yeah, we try.
You got to be safe in there.
We tried to really not have any line of sight issues, and then any, too much next to each other when we go out and back on Round Mountain to do the new property we did last year. You got to go out to get in, and so it's, you're going to have to parallel on each side of the roadway. But for the most part, the rest of it's, staying away from itself.
Yeah. I mean, the other part too with the safety thing, I'll bring up because you guys will mention it again at the riders meetings and before the start, if you do wind up quitting. Like, we were actually pretty anal about that at TUFF last year and telling people, and at the end of the day, it was funny because we used the same timing company guys, and the only 2 knuckleheads that didn't report their DNF were Jason Siegel and his buddies out there riding with. And it's like, you guys know, I've worked with you for years, so I'm calling you out. But we were hilarious.
So Joey and I chatted about it a bunch, and for me, I just don't want anybody to get forgotten. I mean, and so 10 years we've done pretty well. We've had a few years where it's kind of dicey, but I've got a couple good sweepers this year. And the other thing to touch upon that is it'll be inevitable that some people are going to get to the split and go, I'm done. So I just always tell them, just check in and let timing know, because it's an accountability thing. And there really is going to be, I'll tell people that if they're listening, it's going to be a hard no if they don't get to sag number 4 at a reasonable time to get dark, because it's one thing when they beg and plead with us when they're out by Hart Park and they finish, and it's another thing when they've got 12 miles on private land, because the rancher's just not going to let people stay out there in the dark. So sag 4 is a couple hundred yards from Round Mountain Road, and it's going to be, it's going to be a bummer to turn some people back, but we just can't have them out there with, in the middle of the night doing that.
Yeah.
The one thing that we liked that Joey kind of came up with, I think because of Rock Cobbler last year, was the split like you were talking about. So if you started the Cobbler distance and you got to the split and you're like, screw this, I'm just going to do the shorter one. Then you got that DNFEC, which was the did not finish exact course. And I think that's rad, and it gives people the option to, like, you're like, okay, I'm over it, I'm just going to do something else. But I wanted to ask, can people drop down to
yes,
Cobbler
they can
when they check
and
in on Friday?
That's Joe. I mean, he'd rather them tell him then than to do it, at middle. But he's also realized it's human, and so it happens. So just do it. And he and I went through it, and I said, look, it's not in the nature of the Cobbler to put DNF. I mean, if somebody just comes and said, look, I couldn't finish, but it's kind of in the same line of like why we don't have any podiums and prize money and all that. It's just like, we're here for everybody's experience. And if somebody 10 miles and turns around and comes back, but has a phenomenal day, get as much or as little out of it as you can. And that's really the bottom line. So, but we do want to try to keep it as, as professional as we can for the money that they're spending. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I like that. Still get something.
Yeah.
Pasta dinner. So I'm bringing this up because Dave and I can't do dairy. What exactly
Well,
does this
Greg and Matt are
$10
whipping
get
up
everyone?
a very traditional pasta dinner. So we're doing pasta, salad, bread, butter, just kind of good old fashioned pasta dinner. So we gluten-free pasta and they'll cook
Got
it
it.
for you. I don't think there's any
All
dairy
right.
well, the butter.
Okay. Yeah, just the butter. It's fine, just the butter. Just Dave's gonna be behind a
Oh, he's
bush
lost
losing a sock. It's okay.
Cobbler before anyway.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Next question.
Exactly.
Are
all right,
we
so
still doing the private land? We're hiding the maps because of
It's not
on Strava
well,
because of
with the
where we're
march
at.
of technology, and I told Lance, I'm like, look, it's going to be impossible for me to keep people from doing things. All I can do is beg and plead and ask, which I will do again tonight. They just worry about trespassing. The thing that I've really got them to understand, and I think most of them get it now. It's like our demographic is not inclined to want to do this. I mean, the chances of somebody getting in their car from San Luis and coming over and hopping fences is probably next to nothing. But I do have to protect those assets. I mean, the route Cobbler doesn't exist without that. Yeah. And we have access to things that are, I would have never thought we would have gotten to do. So I really hold it close to my heart to not, endanger the event by passing and doing all of that. So we just want to drive it home. It's like, enjoy the Cobbler for the day and the time that you're here and what it is, and help us keep it going in the future. And the best way we can do that is not to trespass.
yeah. And so for everyone that uses Strava that's listening right now, there is a feature now where you can edit your activity and you can also hide your entire map. And so it would be worthwhile to probably do that if you think you have people that are going to want to, like Sam said, drive to Bakersfield and potentially ride some of this. That is a nice feature that we haven't really had until the past year and a half or so. So once you finish your ride, if you can go in and hide the map, it would be fine. You're still going to have all the stats there. It's going to be okay. But it kind of, I think, keeps the essence of the
So,
event
that's
alive,
just an
which is
ask
nice.
that comes to us, and we just pass it along. And I know people want to glorify their day and do it, and I want them to do that. I want them to have fun with it with their buddies and stuff. But we just always ask them, if you do this for us, we'd be very appreciative.
Yeah.
So the conditions now, are there any condition updates as of today that would potentially influence tire choices last minute, or any other red flags that
I don't
you've
think
seen
so.
in the
I mean,
past
I
few
was a
days?
little worried this morning because it was cloudy and it was still very damp on the east side of town. I live not far from all the course stuff. So I poked around a little bit today. I'll be out on Rio Bravo and some of the other private stuff on Monday, but I don't think so. All the areas that we have drain really well, which is why we get rain ruts and erosion. So I think the Cobbler is there's a gazillion tire choices, and did I make this and that, and you sort of go with what you know, and I just have stuck with make sure your brakes are good, make sure you have low gears, and I would highly influence you to go with a bigger tire and more knobbies if in doubt. And so those are the three kind of tenets that I always tell people. And we'll be good. We'll be good. I think it'll actually be pretty fast come Saturday. So that I don't want people out there on Velcro, taking forever. And it was pretty Velcro a few weeks ago. Like we didn't finish. We got to about, which is a little over halfway, and it was like 2:00 because it was like 6 or 7 miles an hour. It was so heavy. No, we're good.
Wow.
Good.
I think every pre-ride kind of goes that way. Like the first time we took Yuri and Baker out to do the long course, and I made it harder than what it is now. And it's like, we have to cut off the last section. We're going to die. But we also did it in June. It was like 114 coming through the red rocks, and I was like holding on to the side of the truck. Amanda just told me at the top, she's like, can't hang on. They're riding. I'm like,
I'll make a confession. So I haven't spent a lot of time on the bike, more time in the gym these days. And so on all the recon rides, I get given a lot of crap to ride my e-bike. I love my e-bike. It's my gravel bike, rock, and allows me to keep up with Dave and all the fellas. So
Hey,
yeah,
whatever. That's awesome.
they are. It's a
They're
good. It's a
fun.
tool. It was a tool I needed, you know. So
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, so one more note on tires that for people listening, I think if there is a little bit of mud and you have very little clearance between, let's say, your frame and your tire and the chainstay in the rear, for example, like make sure you kind of make a decision that gives you a little bit more room to your frame, but also gives you enough surface area
yep,
that you want from your tire. So, like if I have a 42 in my frame and it holds up to a 50, that probably gives me some room just in
yeah,
case I do run into mud
yeah.
and it collects and
And
throws
we put together
everywhere.
a pretty good
But
little
yeah.
swag bag. You know, I don't think people are going to need it, but we'll give everybody two good quality heavy duty tongue depressors, a Ziploc. I mean, a few things that they want to take with them in case they got to triage something like that. And I went to great lengths to find really good 8-inch tongue depressors so that they're quality and people can actually use them to get mud out, turn into a,
Nice.
you know, yeah,
Nice.
Pro tip: if it's really
yeah.
bad, put them in your leg bands.
I saw a
Then
guy
you don't
take
have to reach into your pocket.
I thought this was pretty ingenious, really. He took a knee warmer off and threaded the knee warmer between the frame and the tire and started doing like the tying technique.
Wow.
Flossing?
I was like, well, that's pretty ingenious, really, if you think about it. I mean, knee warmer's ruined, but you got a tool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not what your friends think you use that knee warmer for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You sure that's mud on there?
So you said the email is going out tonight with the course, and then is there anything else anybody should kind of pay attention to this week?
So I'll send the route out here in a little bit, and then anybody that's camping will get a specific email just kind of highlighting the 3 or 4 things they need to know for that. We've got a pretty good turnout. I think we're over 100. So that then people are already there. They don't have to mess with parking on Saturday. So got a pretty good plan in place. The first time we've done this many people and hired a parking company, but as long as they do their job and we get stuff going, we'll be good. So that's that'll really be about the last thing, unless something comes up where I feel like I need to communicate anything important before Thursday.
Cool.
In 5 words or less, preferably 1, tell us how you feel about this year's event.
Nervous. It's a big. It's a lot of growth. I don't feel really worried about all the logistics because we've done it enough now, and I've got such a good team. But it's, I know there's going to be a point on Friday when I get to the venue and there's a lot going on. I'm just going to look at that number of people, and I've been to plenty, BWRs and other events and things with a lot of that. But I'm usually focused on something else. In the driver's seat, it's like, yeah, it makes me pucker a little bit. So.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
But I'm really confident it's going to go well. We just got a couple of big days ahead of us to put some ducks in a row, and we'll be ready.
Yes, for sure. I think like that learning curve, or when you have that many more people, you also have a lot more new people, and so they aren't as aware of everything as the people that have done it for at least 1 year or so. And so those questions that come in of like, oh, I feel like everybody should know this, and they don't, you realize it's because they're new or it's their first quote unquote gravel event or whatever. Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of that.
Think of something. I was looking at some of the numbers, and I think, where did I see it? It was like number of people that have gone before. I think it's, or have ridden the Cobbler before and then are new. And I think it's like 50-50, maybe 60-40, but yeah, a lot of returning. So that's always exciting, but also a lot of new people. So yeah.
Yeah. I love it. And I think for people watching that are like, oh, it's probably not that bad, or like it's just fear marketing and it's, I can handle it. Like, it's gonna be pretty bad at some point. So just for everybody that's new, that doesn't know what they're getting themselves into, it's gonna be crazy.
It's a hard ride.
And you just go with it.
We can have all
exactly.
at the end of the day, people are here for the ride, and it's it's a good one, like it always is. So it's gonna be a full day.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, Dave, last question.
Well, we already kind of talked about what the inspiration was to kind of build this in the beginning, but then that brings to the other part of that with like, what does the next 10 years look like for the future of the event?
I don't know, man. I don't know what next. I mean, in a nutshell, I had lunch with Greg and Matt today, who are really kind of my original, the two guys. And so we were kind of reminiscing and toasting 10 years. And I think I'm mostly in the driver's seat these days, but I really do truly hire them now, and they're indispensable for all the food and stuff. We want to keep it going. We're here to do the Cobbler the way the Cobbler needs to be done. And I think we're obviously, since we kind of got an early start into the gravel arena, as long as people keep coming and people want to do it and coming up with unique stuff, we'll just stay the course and just take it year by year. So, but I certainly do love doing it. Sure. And so we wanted to keep rolling.
Nice. Same. That's good to hear. Yeah, I was just mostly curious because right after like Sunday morning, after everybody left towards, I look at Dave and I'm like, are we doing this again next year? Dave's like, I don't know. Cause like the immediate right off the bat, I'm like, oh God, that was so much work. And I don't know. And I'm like, I don't know how Sam has done this for so many years. So yeah, from like our personal standpoint, we were like, what is Sam going to keep doing? And yeah, we're happy to hear that.
Like a week later, Amanda's like, that was the greatest thing ever. I'm like, this is going to take me a month to process because my balance of life was so...
He was like give me time.
Yeah, people don't realize you're like 14 hours a day, every day, especially when you're a month out. You're just like, do I have this permit? Do I have this? Do I have that? And you got a list of everything you're hitting and you have them checked off.
And I've got a little ADD, man. And I've got a really good, I call it my master list, and it's pretty comprehensive. I copy it over every year and then add, change stuff and whatnot. But you guys know from doing your event, and then you compound the growth. There's always something popping up. We had a bunch of county stuff come up at the last minute. And so, your flow tends to get disrupted, and it's easy to just kind of go squirrel, like what's over there? Or did I call, So, it's long days. It's a big, and like you were talking, it throws off your pattern. Yeah. Your life pattern just goes to hell for 2 weeks.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I got one more question I want to ask. What is Taco Man's role this year?
Yeah, Taco Man.
Just Taco Man.
Taco Man wants to do. So he's bull taco this year, I guess. Okay. I don't know. We'll see. Knowing him, he's probably trying to sew that bull outfit into the taco suit.
That would be amazing.
He just needs the head part with the taco.
Right.
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna call him as soon as comments pop up at the bottom. Are there going to be bulls on the course? For the record, again, that was not planned. We would never plan such a thing. I'm glad everybody walked away, fairly well undamaged last year and had a good laugh about it. But no, we talked to both the ranchers extensively, and to the point of trying to get some cowboys out there. So they were all quite aware of the deal, and no, we're going to keep the cattle away. There will be cattle on the property. I can't make them go away and pin them all, but I think we'll be in good shape.
Yeah, when Amanda told me the number of views you had on the bull video, I was like, well, that's how you get to 1,000. So I told her, like, let's talk to the Forest Service. And, like, we have a lot of sheep pens, and then we have ranchers, too. And I'm like, let's just tell them to leave the sheepdogs out, because if we just get videos of them sheepdogs chasing everybody, like.
Brutal. We have, you guys are on the sheep here. And it's funny. The guy who runs all the sheep, he's like the last Basque sheep herder in Bakersfield, is one of our best friends. Like, we have dinner every Friday night. yeah, he's always like, hey, you guys doing the bike ride again? I'm like, oh yeah, we'll be out there. So push the sheep some.
Nice.
But yeah, no, I don't want the
Yeah.
you guys of all people know. I want the Cobbler to be what the Cobbler is. The bull thing, yeah, it got some laughs, but I don't want people getting hurt, and I don't want to be up here reckless. And you know, we want to be known for, you know, the stuff we've talked about. So beach balls and shenanigans and push-ups and good food and bringing a lot of new people into adventure riding, gravel riding, whatever we want to call it. That's, you know, that my satisfaction is that people on bikes and people doing something, a great activity, and just doing it in a unique way.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we wanted to say thank you for your time doing this. I mean, you were one of the first people that Dave called when he was like, we're thinking about doing this thing, and you're like, okay, let's get on the phone because I don't know if you want to do this. So yeah, you gave it to us straight, and I appreciate that. So we wanted to try and do this for you, get some last information out there for everyone, and tell you thanks again. You inspired a lot of people to do hard rides, and also inspired people to put others.
Thanks, Amanda. I really appreciate you guys. You've done a lot for me. Yeah, you know, I think everybody in my camp walks away, even when we bring new people in to just help with T-shirts or whatever it might be. They all sort of look at it and walk away with a pretty positive feeling. And so there isn't any amount of money that can replace doing something that is just great for the cycling community and great for my local community. I mean, we're bringing a lot of dollars to Bakersfield this year. And so proud of that. And I think you walk away with a really good feeling that you're doing something that people can enjoy. And
yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah. No, it's always the fun part because they used to call Mammoth a shoulder season in September, and now with our event, the Grand Fondo, and a running event, they're like, well, it's no longer shoulder season. It's like the month of all these endurance activities. And so you kind of look at that impact for the local community, and it's a good thing to keep people employed at shops when normally that time of year is a little bit more quiet. So
agreed.
I mean,
100%. And getting all that rain, everything's so green right now. It's just going to be a really pretty Cobbler, which is always wonderful when we've got the green. We enjoy it because in like a month it'll be like vapor to gone and back to brown. So there is some strategy to having the Cobbler in February for sure.
For sure. Yes. It's always like I explain to people, like, this is the best time of year to come ride here because, been out for the road races in like August and stuff, and you're like, oh, so
we put our best foot forward with the timing of the event for sure. So I'm glad we got our stake in the ground on early February. It just works.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, we will look out for that email. Everybody's going to go study that route once it goes out. So thanks for your time on this. We'll post it so people can watch it later.
Yes. You guys have a good rest of the week, and it'll be here before we know it.
Perfect.
All right. See you guys.
All right. Thanks, Sam.
Bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye.